Let's meet Bob. Now, Bob is a sales account executive, and Bob is responsible for sales prospecting. He is not and outreach and engagement. He is not an SDR. He is not a new sales rep. Bob is not junior in any way. He's tenured. He's a tenured field account executive and has now been forced to virtually engage with all of his buyers 100% of the time. Sound familiar? Well, let's take a look at how Bob engaged with me as the CEO of Vengreso. And as a background, for those of you who do not know Vengreso, we are the world's largest modern sales training company, having educated over 140,000 professionals. So every day I get between 5 and 20, roughly between 5 and 20 sales messages for people trying to sell me something. So here's a real one. And this came from Bob. And Bob starts out with, "Are you familiar with my company?" Well, wow, I don't even know who you are or what your company is about. No, I don't know your company. But you immediately go into that you'd like to schedule a meeting and that you're eager to meet. In addition, you start out right away in this engagement that you want to drive after a virtual demonstration. That's your goal. I'm glad you told me that up front. However, we go straight into a complete regurgitation of products and features and functions about your specific product. Now, I don't know that Bob knows, but I'm not in the market for a new intranet, whatever it is that this company provides. But what the problem with this message and this engagement, as many of you are probably looking at it right now and saying, whoa, what was Bob thinking? Bob didn't even understand who I was. He didn't even speak to my pain. He went straight into a products features dump. And unfortunately, this was a message that I received on LinkedIn, and it's also the same messages that I receive on email. In addition to that, Bob says he wants to set up a call to review, and then I, as a busy executive, with my schedule generally packed out at least 2 weeks ahead of time, I'm supposed to let him know when is a good available time, instead of him providing me specific dates and times that might be available 2 and 3 and 4 weeks out. And finally, you don't know this, but below his greetings was his name, and it didn't even have a phone number. So just pretending that I was interested at all, I didn't even have a way to be able to reach this buyer, this seller, I did not have a way to reach this seller through a phone number so I could pick up the phone. But friends, leaders, this is the engagement that our sellers are doing every single day. And we're talking about tenured field account executives, tenured SDRs, new BDRs, new sales reps. We have not taught them the right skill to engage in a virtual environment. And these emails, these messages are the ones that if we received it ourselves, we would ignore. Yet our sellers are doing this. And that is that ineffective sales engagement that we're seeing taking place right now. So how do you solve that problem? I want to talk to you about the PVC Sales Methodology. Now, the PVC Sales Methodology sounds just like PVC as piping, and it's very specifically focused on 3 elements. The P for personalize. Leaders, we are in an era where every other competitive organization to us and even non-competition are targeting the same exact buyers. We have got to stop for a moment the spray and pray and work with our sellers to drive towards hyper personalization. Well, how do you do that? Well, there's 2 ways to personalize to a particular individual. And one of those ways is to the individual themselves. Now, you could reference things like commonalities, mutual connections, articles that they may have published, company culture that the company may be posting about. You could even mention specifically things about you saw that person's post, you saw their podcast, you watched them on a webinar, whatever the case might be. You can reach out to those individuals and you can personalize a message to them individually. Make them feel like you know them. I have a saying that I deliver. Show me that you know me. Now, what's also true is that not all buyers can be hyper personalized to. I do agree to that, especially as the digital guy, right? So we, at a very base minimum, we personalize to the persona. And when we personalize to the persona, we are speaking to the pain that our solution can solve. For example, at Vengreso, we help sales leaders. How? We solve sales leaders' problems of getting more sales conversations and increasing the sales pipeline through digital selling. Okay, if I was reaching out to a sales leader who had no presence whatsoever on social media, I could not reference commonalities, company culture, any podcast, article, webinar, nothing from their annual reports, anything. Well, I'm going to go back to as a baseline and reference the persona. Mr. or Mrs. Sales Leader, this is who we help and this is how we help. Do you have that particular problem? Because if they don't have that particular problem, well, I probably don't want to meet with them. So this is very important that we understand as sales leaders whether or not our sellers can say in one sentence, what is the business problem that we solve with our product or our solution? So that we know that our sellers are at a baseline personalizing to the individual persona. Number two, the V for value. We've got to make sure that every one of our engagements with our sellers to buyer brings value. Given the fact that we are digitally connected, socially engaged, mobile attached, video hungry buyer and seller, there is a lot of information that's out there. How do we then create an engagement that the buyer perceives as valuable? I'll give you an example. When I generally reach out to a sales leader, and that sales leader has nothing that I can use to personalize, hyper personalize to the individual, I will generally reach out to them and say, John, Susie, whoever the name may be, generally when I speak with sales leaders, they have two problems. One, they're trying to start more sales conversations. And two, they're trying to grow the sales pipeline. Is that a challenge that you're having? If so, I'd love to be able to show you this particular case study, webinar, blog article, ebook, guide that speaks to how you can increase your sales pipeline by, or how you can increase your sales conversations through, and then I bring the value through that ebook, that guide, that webinar, whatever it might be. And we use that content to address the specific pain that we're trying to solve through our product and solution. And finally, we close out every message with a CTA. Now, leaders, most of us know that our sellers are going for that meeting. They go for that meeting because that's what they're instructed to do. But remember, in a digital engagement, in a digital first world, we have to earn the right to be able to get that meeting. And we have to be able to stand out from the crowd amongst everybody else who's reaching out through all of these channels that are available now to a digitally connected, socially engaged, mobile attached, and video hungry buyer. And it might not be ask for the meeting. We might want to change our scripts, our messages, our playbooks, and convert the CTA to be a question. For example, if we at Vengreso know that we help sales leaders create more sales conversations, the question we might close with is that a problem that you're trying to solve today? And if that is a problem that you're trying to solve, then we should probably schedule a discussion. That is a question that will solicit a response, hopefully, if it is something that they're trying to solve for. And so that's the PVC methodology. Personalize, bring value, and have a call to action. And remember that that call to action is not always ask for a meeting. So, leaders, I want you thinking about how to implement the PVC sales methodology in all of your reps' extended outreach through social, through email, or even apply this to a phone call as well.